this important gathering. And I'd like to as well welcome the President, Nigeria Computer Society, the President, CPN, Chairman of Council, the NEC of our dear Practical Artificial Intelligence Development Foundation, our guest, Dr. Chinasa, and more importantly, our respected members who are here today. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to today's AI Stellar, for a unique and motivating experience. And the AI team provide a platform for discovering career paths and professional journey, which I believe we are going to benefit from this discussion. We actually gathered to explore a subject that is revolutionizing the professional landscape, that is artificial intelligence. And, in this session, we will delve into transformative power of AI as a tool for navigating career journey. Surely you will gain insight into identifying your strengths, exploring diverse career options, and leveraging AI-powered tools to drive your professional growth. I'm very happy because of the caliber of guests that we have today. And that is what makes this a very special event. And today, we have in our midst a scholar, a researcher, a strategic expert, policy advisor on AI governance, and someone who is highly, fit to deliver this great lecture. And that is why I want to congratulate all of us for making it to this event. And once again, I thank you for being here. Together, let us embark on this exciting journey and uncover how AI can unlock endless opportunity for personal and professional growth. So once again, I welcome you and I wish all of us a productive session. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next, we have is reading of the profile of our experts. Dr. Chinasa Okolo is a fellow at the Brookings Institution and a recent computer science PhD graduate from Cornell University. Her research focuses on AI governance in the Global South, datafication and algorithmic marginalization, and the socioeconomic impact of data work. Dr. Okolo has been recognized as one of the world's most influential people in AI by Time and advises numerous multilateral institutions, national governments, corporations, and nonprofits. In addition to her work at Brookings, Dr. Okolo serves as a drafting member of the Nigerian National AI Strategy, a consulting expert to the African Union AI Continental Strategy, an expert contributing writer to the International Scientific Reports on the Safety of Advanced AI, and the editor-in-chief of ACM Seekers, Computers, and Society. Her research has been covered widely in media outlets and published at top-tier venues in human-computer interaction and socio-technical computing. Without further ado, join me in welcoming Dr. Chinasa Okolo. You have the floor, Doctor.
All right, again, thank you so much for having me here. I'm just going to do a short presentation of some work I've been working on over the past couple months at Brookings. And after that, we can go into an engaging discussion. And you feel free to ask me any questions about the work, in particular, also about other parts of my research, if you're familiar with that as well. So let me just get this ready. So we've seen that AI development and efforts towards regulating these systems are increasingly being centralized in Western countries, despite many of the impacts of AI transcending borders. Western corporations that are at the frontier of AI development are largely reliant on the African continent for natural resources like tantalum, cobalt, and tungsten, which form the GPUs powering large AI models, also known as foundation models, and human resources like data annotation and also content moderation labor, which are used to train AI systems. Given that Africa is seen as the next frontier for AI development, digital resources like data, which advance the capabilities of AI, will likely become the next commodity exploited by foreign entities, fueling a new era of techno-neocolonialism. These concerns, along with issues of bias, disinformation, climate impacts, and economic inequality, elevate a need for comprehensive and harmonized AI and data regulation efforts across the African continent. This talk examines the burgeoning AI and data governance landscape in the African continent, and also analyzes some of the issues that we see, particularly the impact of AI on democratic processes, and also talk about some issues and think about best measures for outlining data governance policy reform within the African continent. So first, we see that globally, AI development is centralized in countries like the United States, China, Canada, the UK, and the European Union. We see the historical barriers that, and also present-day challenges that researchers, developers, grassroots organizations, and also companies throughout the African continent have faced. But however, we've seen notable progress in how these organizations and researchers have been able to democratize how AI is developed and also where this development takes place, and also changing who these technologies benefit as well. In many African countries, grassroots AI and machine learning communities have helped fill in access and capacity gaps of traditional AI and machine learning education, and also training in university and tertiary learning institutions. We've seen that this has helped to increase participation from communities that have been traditionally underrepresented in AI development. Grassroots organizations like the Masakane and also Ghana NLP help develop data sets and also machine translation tools to help expand access to low-resource African languages. We also see efforts like Deep Learning Indaba, AI Saturdays Lagos, and also Data Science Africa, amongst many others, helping grow communities of AI researchers and developers within Africa through forming conferences, workshops, and also study groups. Outside of natural language processing, or NLP, we see specialized AI communities like focusing on healthcare, like Sisonke Biotique in South Africa, and also sustainability, like Afri-Climate AI. More recently, we've also seen more AI and machine learning communities in Francophone West Africa with AI Hub Senegal and Khmer AI in Cameroon, and also in Northern Africa with Morocco AI, the Tunisian AI Society, and also Zaire AI in Algeria. AI research labs on the continent have also grown in prominence over the past decade, with many traced to the 2020 four-year $20 million Canadian dollars AI for Development in Africa program. This was funded by the Canadian International Development Research Center and the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency. Notable academic AI research labs on the continent are the AI and Data Science Research Lab at Makerere University in Uganda, the Data Science for Social Impact Lab at the University of Pretoria, and also the AI and Robotics Lab at the University of Lagos in Nigeria. There's also a growing number of formal degree programs in AI and machine learning, like the African Master in Machine Intelligence that's offered by the African Institute of Biomathematical Sciences, and also a recent Masters of Science in AI offered by the University of Mauritius, and a Bachelor of Science in AI offered by Kumasi Technical University in Ghana. Over the past decade, the AI startup ecosystem within Africa has expanded tremendously. While estimates on the number of AI startups operating within the continent vary, countries with thriving tech scenes like Nigeria, South Africa, and Egypt have shown expansive growth in AI. There's also notable activity from emerging entrants in the African AI ecosystem, which include countries like Zimbabwe, Cameroon, and Uganda. These startups are focused on a range of fields, including healthcare, language generation, and robotics, showing promise to help bridge the development gap and also move towards continental-wide innovation. According to Startup Plus Africa, 85 AI startups on the continent have received cumulative funding of $261 million, with the top 10 startups commanding $238 million and the top 3 commanding $207 million in investment. Entity, a company focusing on decision-making AI systems for biology, logistics, electrical design, and energy, is the most successful AI startup to come out of Africa. It was founded in Tunisia in 2014 and acquired by BioNTech, a German pharmaceutical company, in 2023 for $680 million. Entity has more than 400 employees around the world at offices in London, Paris, Berlin, Tunis, Lagos, Cape Town, Boston, and San Francisco. Research data produced from AfriLabs, a network organization supporting innovation centers across African countries, and analyzed by Tech Cabal, which is a Pan-African publication and chronicling innovation and technology developments in Africa, shows that over 50% of African AI startups are just in 7 countries. These countries include South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Egypt, Uganda, Ghana, and Senegal. Early last year in January 2023, I published a co-authored book chapter that focused on responsible AI in Africa, looking at the challenges and opportunities of these respective technologies in the continent. In this chapter, we analyzed 102 African AI startups to understand the problems that they are addressing and also the implications that this has for the wider African startup ecosystem. Like the prior slide, our work uncovered similar concentration in where African startups operate or where they're founded. As the African AI ecosystem grows, it will be essential that as AI services are built on the continent, that they include Africans from a diverse set of backgrounds, regions, and also languages. Traditional challenges with infrastructure, education, digital literacy, and unequal access to information and communication technologies have impacted the African continent for decades. The rapid adoption and also burgeoning interest in AI globally has amplified these challenges. This highlights serious implications for the advancement of AI throughout the continent. Given the large amounts of data that is needed to train AI systems, and the high number of computing resources consumed in this process, infrastructure challenges affecting African countries is a barrier to AI development in this region. Limited internet penetration within Africa can largely be attributed to infrastructure challenges, including inadequate access to electricity and also insufficient investment in crucial internet infrastructure components like fiber optic cables, cellular towers, and base stations. Africa particularly struggles with internet access. In the last decade, internet accessibility in Africa has significantly risen, increasing from an estimated 8% in 2011 to 36% in 2021. This research was done by the International Telecommunications Union. Fortunately, plans are also underway to begin improving connectivity in Africa, which is one step that is essential to ensuring that African countries and governments can equitably participate in AI research and development. To Africa, which is the longest subsea internet cable ever designed, is currently under deployment and has 46 connections to land-based networks across 33 countries within Africa, Asia, and Europe. However, internet and electricity infrastructure is only one aspect of a successful AI ecosystem. African countries also lag in digital literacy, AI talent, and having access to relevant data sets. According to the World Bank, out of all world regions, Sub-Saharan Africa has the lowest percentage of citizens that are equipped with digital skills. This equals to about half of the average level of digital skills adoption that we see globally. Thus, to ensure that AI is accessible to broader, non-technical populations in the continent, there's a need to distill these topics for various audiences and also develop culturally relevant content. There's also a need to ensure gender and age inclusion to ensure that women, youth, and older adults can benefit equitably from AI research and development. Globally, African countries also rank low in the respective concentration and production of AI talent. These numbers rapidly diminish when we consider the concentrations of top-tier researchers, according to Macro Polo, who led this analysis, which are considered to be researchers who publish at prominent AI conferences like NeurIPS, ICML, ICLR, and KDD, for example. We see that these researchers are primarily situated within the United States and in China. And this has severe implications for how African research is globally represented in AI conferences and also on a global stage as well. However, we see research published in the Harvard Business Review showing that Johannesburg, Nairobi, and Lagos are quickly becoming AI talent hotspots within the continent. Along with investing in cloud computing infrastructure, governments in Africa must build the capacity to train local researchers and developers to help expand their respective AI ecosystems. However, we also see some challenges with how governments and also countries in the continent can train and also retain AI developers. Given some of the unstable political environments and also economies in some countries in Africa, efforts to train and retain AI talent could be hampered if brain drain continues to increase. The 2021 Africa Developer Ecosystem Report by Google estimates that about 38% of African developers work in Africa for a company with its headquarters based outside of the continent. This trend could also follow for AI jobs. It's essential that as AI talent is trained within these countries, they're encouraged to stay and also contribute to local economies through efforts that support local entrepreneurship, research, and innovation in AI. Over the past year, the African AI governance space has expanded dramatically, with nation-specific efforts from countries like Nigeria and Benin, and also to continental-wide efforts from the African Union. This is some of the work that I focus on primarily in my work, and I've also had the pleasure of working with the African Union, the AU for the past almost 3 years now, working on the continental AI strategy, and also recently worked with the Nigerian government, the digital ministry, on developing the national AI strategy as well. The Carnegie Council for Ethics and International Affairs defines AI governance as a set of rules, regulations, ethical and technical frameworks, and similar mechanisms that guide the development and deployment of AI technologies. Data governance is an essential aspect of AI governance, as it provides protections over how personal information is collected, stored, and transferred. while enabling data subjects control over their information and their right to be informed regarding personal data breaches. Given the fundamental role of data in training machine learning models, evaluating AI systems, refining predictive models, and also improving AI-enabled services, enacting effective data governance can also enable more comprehensive AI governance measures. The increasing development and adoption of AI have dramatically shifted practices around data, spurring the development of new industries and also revealing new forms of exploitation. These new complexities around data production, refinement, and use have also impacted African countries, elevating a need for comprehensive governance and also enforcement measures. Approximately 38 out of 55 African Union member states, which include 54 African countries and the Western Sahara, have enacted formal data protection regulations. 15 out of 38 data protection laws passed by African countries were enacted in the past 5 years, and 26 were enacted in the last decade. The first data protection law in Africa was enacted by Cabo Verde in 2001, and data protection laws were recently enacted by Malawi in June of 2024, and also in Ethiopia in July of 2024. As of October 2024, or actually of December, Namibia, South Sudan, and the Gambia have drafted data protection laws that are yet to be enacted. We also see efforts, from the AU, particularly when it comes to data protection and cybersecurity. The AU Malabo Convention is also known as the African Union Convention on Cybersecurity and Personal Data Protection. It was ratified in June of 2023, 9 years after its adoption. It was drafted in 2011 at the 17th Ordinary African Union Summit in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, and adopted by the AU in 2014, and finally entered into force on June 8th, 2023, after being ratified by Mauritania, the 15th country that was needed for ratification to officially be in force. We also see other regional efforts towards data protection that have been implemented by the Economic Community of West African States, also known as ECOWAS, the Southern African Development Community, also known as SADC, and the Eastern African Community, EAC. At the moment, there have been no regional governance measures proposed or enacted by the Arab Maghreb Union, the Community of Sahel-Saharan States, and also the Economic Community of Central African States. And given some of the issues that we see with countries, leaving ECOWAS and other regional blocs, these issues in terms of comprehensive data governance and in the future, comprehensive AI governance could also be an issue if these countries don't align on these respective standards. At the moment, we only see 25 out of 55 AU member states having a policy, strategy, plan, or guidance on AI, according to the African Observatory on AI. This could include a ministerial or presidential statement or a fully developed strategy document like that of Mauritius. While countries like Benin, Egypt, Mauritius, Kenya, Nigeria, and Senegal have developed national AI strategies, Rwanda is the only country in Africa that has introduced a formal AI policy. However, it's yet to be fully enacted. Given such relatively slow progress in developing AI strategies, substantial efforts are required to advance AI regulatory frameworks on the African continent. However, there are also promising efforts to govern AI more broadly throughout the African continent, particularly through the AU Continental AI Strategy, which again, I've been involved in drafting over the past 2.5, 3 years or so. The AU AI Continental Strategy provides guidance for African countries to harness AI to meet Africa's development aspirations and also the well-being of its people, while promoting ethical use, minimizing potential risk, and also leveraging the opportunities. The AU Executive Council endorsed the Continental AI Strategy during its 45th Ordinary Session in Accra on July 18th, 2024, and it was formally released on August 9th. It's expected to be fully endorsed by AU heads of state at the AU Summit in 2025. The introduction of AI in Africa has also introduced a litany of challenges, including the widespread of misinformation. While the purported benefits of AI have promised to help African countries fast-track development and also reach the Sustainable Development Goals, these technologies come with many risks, some of which have already been realized in African countries. Additionally, concerns regarding the negative impacts of AI have led to a wide array of research investigating its impact in healthcare, employment, and policing. However, much of this work is concentrated in Western context, excluding perspectives on how AI may affect countries in Africa and also the rest of the global South. We see that African countries are disproportionately acquiring and implementing AI-enabled surveillance technologies, spending $1 billion a year on contracts with companies in the US, UK, China, EU, and Israel. In these countries, African countries, these AI technologies have been used to unjustly hold citizens in detention for making critical posts of government and also to track activities of journalists, dissidents, and also activists. Recent coverage has also highlighted the harms that data annotators and content moderators in Kenya have faced when repeatedly exposed to graphic content in their work. As countries within Africa build their respective capacity for AI development and Western companies increase their reliance on Africa for novel sources of data, there are concerns that this exploitation could continue or even worsen. Additionally, the lack of robust data protection and AI policies throughout the continent could potentially lead to greater levels of misuse as AI grows in reach. While Africa is not the only region lacking AI legislation, African countries must make a concerted effort to draft AI strategies and also move towards implementing them to protect vulnerable communities and enable responsible innovation. In recognition of growing discourse on the negative impacts of technologies like generative AI, some of my recent research has also investigated AI-generated propaganda and also disinformation in Africa, with recent work focused primarily on democratic processes like elections. Disinformation is the intentional creation and spread of deliberately deceptive information to mislead or influence people, communities, and institutions. African countries particularly struggle with disinformation, with research showing that media consumers in Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa are exposed to disinformation regularly. Issues with disinformation have been fueled by greater access to information through social media, and also digital platforms have been further exacerbated by the introduction of generative AI. Given the recent cascade of generative AI tools, understanding the usage and impact of AI within African elections continues to emerge. Reports and surveys have shown that African governments are leveraging AI to assist with voter registration, authentication, management, and engagement, along with detecting cyber threats and aiding in oversight and decision-making. Despite these more positive use cases, the many suspected and confirmed cases of AI-generated propaganda influencing electoral outcomes or precipitating coups in countries like Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and Senegal underscore the need for comprehensive documentation of generative AI use cases in democratic processes across the continent. Recent reports from Western World indicate that the incumbent political party within Ghana has used AI to spread misinformation about opposing candidates from rival parties. The accounts spreading these tweets often use AI-generated profile images and also post between certain periods of the day, around 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Ghana time. While most of the posts appear to be promoting the candidate Mahamudu Bawumia, who's currently the vice president, others have disparaged John Mahama, the opposing candidate. And we also saw that the elections that took place on December 7th were quite successful, and the other party or opposing political party actually won office. But however, it was unclear to understand how these posts impacted public sentiment regarding the election. We also seen interesting cases where political propaganda impacts coups before, during, and after they happen. One of the earliest cases occurred in December 2018 during a time when President Ali Bongo of Gabon was suspected to be very ill at the time. And he posted a video, or the government posted a video, where people saw that there was a bit of unnatural posture and expressions. And so this actually raised a coup that happened in January 2019, but this later failed. We also see some cases, again, where AI-generated propaganda follows coups. And so in September 2022, Burkina Faso's most recent coup was followed by a series of AI-generated videos. And this show appeared to show African Americans expressing support for the new military regime. These videos were initially detected on Twitter and Facebook and also shared by users who received these videos on WhatsApp. Overall, we see that generative AI has strong potential to impact democratic processes, primarily in elections. Within African countries, elections are often plagued by high rates of disinformation, social unrest, internet blackouts, and ballot tampering. Many of these factors impact civic participation and undermine democracy. The increasing ubiquity of generative AI also heightens concerns that AI-fueled disinformation campaigns could exacerbate current issues affecting democratic processes within the African continent. So there are many different AI policies or opportunity policies for Africa. But however, we see existing challenges with the fragmented policy implementation and also limited capacity for regulatory enforcement by countries. This poses, this shows that AI poses a range of challenges for governance in Africa, but also presents many opportunities to create tangible policy impact. While current development priorities such as refining social services, tackling insecurity, and also planning for climate change, in building infrastructure and fighting corruption, take greater precedence over regulating AI, African governments must concurrently work towards developing robust data and AI legislation. However, we do see a couple issues in terms of how African countries face issues in meeting their technological potential. And this includes having weak or insufficient data protection regimes, complications in achieving robust oversight frameworks, and also limited governance and economic resources to devote to technical and also workforce development. So to wrap up, there are a couple recommendations I have to think about, and also that we propose in this paper that I just showed, in terms of improving African progress on AI readiness and also in working towards effective and comprehensive AI and data governance. And so these include strengthening data and computing infrastructure by ensuring that there are stable electrical grids and expanding telecommunications infrastructure. There are also efforts that are needed to increase regional and continental cooperation by collaborating on policy development, and then also enhancing AI and data governance by systematizing a lot of these regulatory efforts and also improving collaboration and implementation of this. Next, we see there are opportunities to expand AI education and employment to ensure that there are opportunities for residents of African countries to participate in the AI ecosystem. And then we also see that it's really necessary to accelerate fundamental AI research. This can help increase research funding and also establish research centers and encourage novel solutions to challenges. And then finally, improving public engagement. It's really important that the public is aware of and also notified about AI policies and data policies. And so it's important for government stakeholders to increase this communication and also help improve their participation in policy development. So I'll stop here and I'm happy to go into the next stage to answer questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Okolo, for the very insightful presentation. We were supposed to stop 10 minutes earlier, but I guess we're all enjoying what you're presenting, so you gave me 10 extra minutes. We want to end this. Thank you. So we'll be taking questions. If you have, I'm sure there are questions we have. So if you have a question, please, you can show your hand so that we can take it one after the other. We'll be spending about 25 minutes on questions and answers. So so if you have questions, please show your hand so that we can call you. Okay, Mr. Adiola Olajide Olatunde, please unmute yourself and ask your question in 60 seconds, please.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to the organizer. I just applauded the presentation of our guest speaker today. I don't really have any question. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Mr. Lajide. Going forward, we prefer questions and comments. Mr. Idris Abdulhamid, please go ahead with your question. Please unmute yourself.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity, sir. I recently worked on deep fish system. So when I was trying to work on paper that will resolve deep fish in our generative AI domain. So is there any room for collaboration? Is anybody is working in this area and for the lecturer? So you can work together collaboratively. Thank you. I plan using CycleGAN for the projects, and I've done the schematic model. So thank you.
Dr. Okolo, do you want to answer the question, or we should take more and then you answer them at once?
Yeah, I guess he was mentioning, I think this is Idris, asking about collaboration opportunities. I think, yeah, this is interesting. I would also recommend joining Masakane because some of the people in this group talk about some of these issues. So I will share a link to Masakane where you can join, and then you can also find collaborators in there. And then also, if you're not a part of Black in AI, I will also send information how you can join that. And people also talk about research projects there as well.
Thank you. Mr. Sylvester Ohono, I want to apologize to those who are professors or PhD holders. I'm calling Mr. Your titles are not part of your display name. So, Mr. Sylvester Ohono, please, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to quickly reemphasize the comment I dropped in my chat. I said this was, if any word like that ever exists, the richest in factual presentation I've ever witnessed recently. Thank you so much, Dr. Chinasa. As someone who is very experienced in this area, please, I would like to ask, where I am concerned about is where you talked about AI governance in Africa and what's going on and what efforts are being made regionally towards data protection and all that. But individually, I would like to know what your recommendations are as an expert for individuals who use who are developing or making use of artificial intelligence. What are your recommendations with the data they feed into artificial intelligence platforms? Yes, that's the major question I would like to ask. And you also talk about some of the risk that are there in the use of this AI in Africa. I don't know if you could expose us to some of these risks and what you really feel as an expert that we can do about it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And for the first part, I think it's interesting because we see that basically the majority of African countries have data protection regulations in place. And so this actually provides, I would say, relatively well straight standards for developers or companies that are developing AI solutions to follow as they think about data protection. And also the Malabo Convention, to a certain extent, also provides guidelines, particularly when we think about cross-country data transfers, and also how data should be stored, and also how consumers should be notified about data breaches, and also how their consent for their data to be used for AI systems. And so if you're building products that are focused on a specific country, you also have to think about those respective regulations. As you build products for multiple countries or across the continent, you will also have more standards to follow. I think, unfortunately, that there are many African countries that don't necessarily have the data protection offices to enforce some of these standards, which can also lead to issues of data theft and also data exploitation from African consumers. And so this is something I think will begin to emerge as more companies and more developers start thinking about AI. And so for the second question, could you remind me of that, please? I think did you mention?
Yeah, I think you treated some part of it, but I was talking about those risks that you mentioned come along with the usage of, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some of the interesting use cases that we've seen in terms of how African governments are widely deploying AI actually happens in surveillance. And so this is a big issue because we see that people can be negatively targeted by these systems. For example, people that are protesting against political parties or the governments in place, people that are journalists. This is definitely affected them a lot as well. And so this can lead to imprisonment, even death in some cases as well. But also, I think a big issue that we see from these issues is that there's a lot of research have shown that, for example, Black people are not able to be recognized equitably by facial recognition systems, and also, other kinds of systems. And there are refugee agencies, for example, from the UN that are actually leveraging these technologies along with fingerprints and other information to track migrants and refugees in different African countries as well. And so if there aren't sufficient standards in place to protect this data, refugee data can also be exploited as well. And also, just when we think about bias, there could also be cases where AI exacerbates bias across religious groups or tribal groups as well. And so we see that many countries are experiencing these tribal and ethnic conflicts as well. So AI could also exacerbate some of these issues as well.
Thank you, Dr. Okolo. Mrs. Nihi Lola Adeyemi, you have the floor. Is your question, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Okolo. So my question is around AI ethics. And, I've been looking around that lately, and I'm also looking at it towards Africa. Now, as much as we don't want to water down our culture, AI ethics is also very strong there. So how do we ensure that while we'll, encourage AI in Africa, we also maintain the culture that is very strong to us in Africa, because we can allow technology to, eradicate our beliefs and our culture. So how do we marry that, and what do you think, or what will be your suggestion on how to ensure that both parties are independent? And maybe that's one of the reasons why, Africa is even finding it a bit reluctant to embrace all the innovations around AI. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. And so I think this is why I've been very proactive in promoting local AI development, because there's been a lot of research showing that, these large models, like ChatGPT and other, like large language models or image generating models actually promote Western values because they're developed by Western, developers and companies. And so because of this, for example, they don't work well in languages like Yoruba, Igbo, Swahili, Zulu, Amharic, for example. And so this is why it's important for Africans and African developers and researchers to develop and research these technologies to make sure that they fit African context and that also promote African values, because we see that, again, Western values, let's say prioritize things like individualism, where, in the global South and in Africa, more specifically, we see values like communalism and also shared prosperity, as being more important versus individualism, for example. And also, there have been researchers thinking about how to integrate values like Ubuntu, for example, in Southern Africa, and into AI ethics, and also, other ethical value systems across the continent. And so I think this is why it's important, again, for Africans to lead AI development that meets the need of African consumers.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Okolo. Do we have any other person who wants to ask a question? We don't have any other hands raised yet. We still have time for more questions, so. Well, if there is none at the moment, I guess I have the floor, so I can ask my own question too. Dr. Okolo, given your work with, I think, is it NIGDA or with the Federal Ministry of
NIGDA. It's
okay,
both. They're involved, yeah.
Okay. Can you give us insights on how AI can be applied and scaled in the Nigerian context?
Yeah, so something I think is interesting is because everyone, globally is focused on building the biggest, fastest model. It's interesting because there's also research showing that as these models increase in size, they actually don't necessarily increase in accuracy or even efficiency, and also just like efficiency in general. And so I think this is important because we know that in African countries, also Nigeria, that most people access the internet through mobile devices. And so for AI to work on these mobile devices, we actually have to leverage methods like small models, small AI models. And I think this is actually a better approach to AI development because one, we can use smaller models to focus on task-specific domains. So let's say like a specific problem in healthcare or agriculture or education, and also even a small language model that focuses on one language. And so we can import this more easily onto a mobile device, or we can have this stored in the cloud, where it's much more easier, for someone to access like this model from their mobile phone without having to worry about using up all of their data, and also, spending a lot of money on data as well. And so I'm really in favor of small AI models. And there's also, again, because they can also have more impact and also accessibility as well. The Nigerian government in particular has also been thinking about how to solve these issues of infrastructure, of course, and there've been, I believe, a lot of funding that they've received from the World Bank to focus on integrating or implementing this fiber optic infrastructure as well, to increase telecommunications access, and then also obviously working on the electric grid. I'm not really sure how well that progress has been made, because we know that over the past couple of months, we've seen multiple failures of the grid as well. So again, this is something that the Nigerian government will have to focus on and really work towards, over the next 5 years or so, to even think about becoming competitive in the AI race, or even just the AI global stage.
Thank you, Dr. Okolo. Okay, we have another hand raised, Professor Sodia, the chairman of our advisory board. Professor Sodia, please, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much, the coordinator of this event. Well, Dr. Chinasa, I decided to put my video on, at least to let you know the person that has been talking to you for quite some time. I just want to ask you how we can actually develop infrastructure in Nigeria. One of the things this group is aiming to achieve is to partner with international organizations, local organizations on how we can set up AI lab, international standard AI lab in Nigeria. And of course, that is going to require a lot of fund, a lot of effort to acquire GPIs and so on and so forth. So I just want to ask from you, what suggestions, what recommendations do you have for this group on that? Because we are actually looking forward to have a lab, because one of the objectives of this group is to build capacity in AI. You talk about competitive advantage. I mean, in terms of human resources, we have people in Nigeria that are really dedicated to the development of AI in Nigeria. So, but they need a lot of support. They need to acquire more skills. They need some practical engagement. And that is why one of the things that is of interest to us as a group, as a Practical Artificial Intelligence Development Foundation, is that we want to partner and be able to have AI lab that we can work, that we can also use for further practical engagement so that we can get to where we want to be as a nation. I just want to ask you whether there are connections, there are suggestions, there are funding agencies to program projects like this that you know, that you want to also let this group know about. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so honestly, I'm not based in Nigeria, as many of you know, and I don't necessarily have the best insights into this. I know that a lot of the products that I mentioned previously have been led by the digital ministry, under Boshun Tijani. And so they're really focused on the infrastructure part of basically all telecommunications or communications infrastructure, including, the postal mail as well. And so again, I don't think this is something that individuals should have to focus on, because it's the priority and also the responsibility of the government and, to lead and develop these projects. And so I know, again, the government has received funding, for a lot of funding from the World Bank and also the IFC, the whole World Bank group, et cetera, to help with these projects. There's also been a lot of interactions with different foundations, also other UN organizations like UNDP, UNESCO, to also support things like the AI strategy workshop that happened earlier this year in April as well. So there's a lot of money coming in on different sides. And so I think the best thing I would suggest, for the researchers and developers in this room is just to really hold the government accountable and understand, what kind of progress is being made, to work towards, stable electrical grid, and also, greater access to data in the cloud as well. And so following up with the government, sending in emails is something that we are able to do, like in the US, for example. And so I'm not sure if there are similar outlets in Nigeria where you can provide like public comments on issues as well. But if not, I think I would encourage you all to build your own as well, build your own outlets to communicate with the government. And again, I also think that the Nigeria AI Foundation organization that is all gathered here today can be a powerful voice in advocating for some of these and many of these issues.
Thank you, Dr. Okolo. Before we go, to the next thing we have here, I think the NCS president is here, Dr. Muhammad Ali Surajo. The NCS president, please, wants to hear from you, sir. Like we said earlier when we started, PAIDeF is an interest group under the Nigerian Computer Society. Is the president with us?
I guess he has gone to pray.
Okay, we will take the president when he comes back if we are still on at that time. Do we have further questions? We can still take one more before we move to the next item and wrap things up. So if there are questions or comments, the next item we have is an award we want to present to Dr. Okolo. That will be done by the chairman of the advisory board, Professor Additional Sodia. Professor Sodia.
Well, I would just request you to help us to share the award on the screen so that we can actually engage in virtual presentation of this award. Distinguished participants, the president of PAIDeF, members of the executive, and other members of this very important group. You all agree with me that we have indeed brought somebody that is truly international, somebody that has passion, somebody that has also grown to an enviable height in the field of artificial intelligence to come and have interaction with us today. We engaged him some months ago, and he accepted to come and be part of this interaction. So, of course, these are AI Stellar. This is the maiden edition, and it's going to continue for a long time because we will continue to bring to this platform AI experts, that are Nigerians, to come and have interaction with us. Dr. Okolo has really done so well, excellently well. The presentation was superb. He has added to the knowledge, to the ideas some of us have, in the field of AI. And she has also brought so many recommendations that some of us were not even thinking about. In other words, we have all enjoyed the presentation, the interaction we have had with Dr. Okolo today. And that is why the Executive Council of PAIDeF has recognized the fact that Dr. Okolo you should receive the first ever AI Stellar Award in Nigeria, in Africa. The award is presented. It will going to be shared with you. And of course, this award, you cannot find it anywhere. It's an award that is distinct, it's actually from PAIDeF alone. You cannot see it anywhere. So it's all just in recognition of your outstanding contribution and growth in the field of AI. And with the fact that you have passion, you are interested in AI development in Nigeria, and we are also recognize you as one of our stellars, some of our stars in the field of AI. And I think this award also comes with the fact that I think the president has also said that somebody like you must also be part of PAIDeF. So I think the president has said, we are going to give you an automatic membership of PAIDeF, alongside with this award. So that we really want to connect with you. We want to continue to have interaction with you. And somebody told me before we started this event, this program, that why are we not inviting Dr. Okolo to be part of our conference next year? We are planning to have African practical international practical conference in AI, and it's going to take place maybe in November, October next year. We are still working on it. So I have mentioned it so that Chinasa can help us to put it in a diary. That one is not going to be virtual. I want to see you physically with us. So, well, we'll talk more on that later. But this afternoon, I think on behalf of the president, members of the members of the Executive Council of PAIDeF, and the entire membership of PAIDeF, we want to present this award, most distinguished award of PAIDeF to you, AI Stellar Award. This is first of its kind to you in recognition of your efforts, in recognition of the excellent presentation that we have had today, and with the fact that you have also agreed to be one of us, to continue to engage us. You know, this award is presented to you, AI Stellar Award. Congratulations, Chinasa.
Thank you
Can
so
we
much, Professor.
jam something together for her? Can we jam our hands together? Or do we give her standing ovation? Whatever you want to do, I think we need to honor this wonderful lady. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Professor.
So, Director of Publicity, over to you. I don't know how you want to take photograph of my handing over of the award to Chinasa. It's something that we need to improve upon on our virtual platform so that we can make something like that to also happen. Congratulations once again, Chinasa.
Thank you,
Director of
Professor.
Publicity, over to you.
Thank you, Professor. Well, that's another startup idea for someone. Yeah, congratulations, Dr. Okolo, and thank you so much for the very insightful presentation you made. For next, we have just a few minutes. It's appreciation and closing remarks from our Secretary, Dr. Kudirat Abiola Adegoke. Our General Secretary, Ma, you have the floor.
No, Director of Publicity, I think you can give Chinasa 1-2 minutes to respond to the award before we finally close. Thank you, sir.
Oh, all right. That's another. Dr. Okolo, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you again, Professor Sudian, for the invitation and also the award. I appreciate. It's a great honor to be honored by my country. I've been to Nigeria a very long time. I've had some opportunities to travel this year, but it didn't work out with my schedule. So I definitely will make sure to put the conference on my radar and ensure that I can attend in person. So again, I'm very grateful for the Practical AI Development Foundation, the Nigeria Computer Society, for all of the support. And I look forward to engaging further with the community as well. So thank you again for the honor.
Thank you for honoring us too, Dr. Okolo. So, General Secretary, please,
Yeah, Director
appreciation
of
and closing
Publicity.
remarks.
Thank you very much, Director of Publicity. On behalf of the entire community of the PAIDeF, I want to thank and appreciate our guest presenter, Dr. Chinasa Okolo, for our presentation. Our insights, expertise, and engaging delivery have greatly enriched our understanding of the AI and its solutions. So we are incredibly grateful for sharing your invaluable knowledge and for the time you have spent in preparing and delivering this enlightening lecture. Your contributions have undoubtedly left a lasting impact on our attendees, and we inspire further exploration and the application of AI in our respective fields of knowledge. So I also want to appreciate and express our concern and sincere appreciation to all PAIDeF members who are here present today, who have attended this lecture. I believe the impression Dr. Stella has already given us today will remain last, and it will longer in our memory, and then we can work based on what some of the things we actually took from the lecture today. You have been very active, and the participation has been impressive. You asked questions, and then you have actually interacted with our guest presenter. And as our professor has rightly said, that we really want to see her physically in our next program, that is our forthcoming conference. We really want to see you physically, we want to interact with you, and we want to strengthen our network and relationship with you. And then we hope you continue to prepare so many things and then a number of networks that we can actually tap into to be able to further the development of AI in Nigeria. So on behalf of all of us, once again, Dr. Okolo, we thank you for your exceptional presentation. And to all our members, we want you to continue to support us and engage us at any time we call on you. So I would like to ask our Director of Publicity to take over the event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, our General Secretary. There's little else to say. We've had a successful event, and I'm really happy we're able to actually keep to time. We said an hour, we've spent 10 extra useful minutes. So thank you all. Thank you, Professor Chinasa Okolo. Thank you, all those who are part of getting this to happen. Thank you, all those who have also attended. We'll be sharing the recordings later on the membership platform. Thank you and have a great evening. Those of you in Nigeria, and Dr. Okolo, have a great day.
So much. Take care.